When we're connected, we're committed. We buying that? Shit, I don't know. Sammy, bang that.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. And Bill Show.
Intercepted! Marlon Jackson! Marlon's got it! We're going to the Super Bowl! We're going to the Super Bowl! Marlon Jackson with the interception! He picked off Tom Brady!
The sickest Indianapolis Colts podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Anvil Show, Sick Podcast Edition. Fellas, you guys come on in. Let's talk about it. Welcome, Pat.
What's going on, brother?
Welcome, Acosta.
What's going on, y'all?
It's our first ever show on Sick Podcast. Excited to be here. How you fellas feeling about that tonight?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous.
Don't
These guys are highly professional, so we got to step up our game to match their energy.
It's official. How you feeling, Acosta?
Man, I'm a little nervous as well, but you know what, man? Guess what? I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. We're going to, bring these boys up like they're bringing us up right now. So let's rock this thing.
Let's do it. All right, Sammy, go ahead and bang that. Let's get into our first topic. So, like I started, we met Shane Steichen last week, right? And he said, when we're connected, we're committed. Now, let's talk about that for a second, right? Like, this is a brand new coach that's actually hired, right? Like, to be our coach. Remember last time, Frank Reich was kind of like a throw-in. Remember, Josh Daniels left us at the altar. So this is his first words, his first address to the team. And the whole city, the whole fan base wants to know, is this just something that he's saying to say, or are we bought in? Pat, how you feeling about that tagline?
I am absolutely bought in. Watching that introduction to the players had me fired up. Had me ready to put some cleats on, get back on the field.
Oh goodness!
Now I would only have made about 30 seconds, but I was fired up to get back out there. But yeah, absolutely, I bought in. And we've all played, and that's what makes us fun because, we get to relive glory days doing this. But what was it that always pumped me up? And it was that coach that I could relate to. It was that coach that I could believe in. It was that coach that got better out of me that I didn't know that was there. And that's what I was feeling watching him do that.
Now, Acosta, I'm going to kick it to you because we know how spirited you are, right? So
yes, sir.
How did you feel when you heard that? You watched the video, and you can just see the passion in everything he says. But how did you feel when you heard those actual words?
I mean, man, I felt like it was a complete 180, from Frank Reich's motivational speeches in the past. I mean, not to put him on blast, but, he's calm, he's cool, he's collected, so I really believe that Shane Steichen brings a new energy to this locker room, and it shows. This guy's young, he's passionate, he's hungry, and that's what these players are: young, passionate, and hungry. And he said, like our topic, when you're connected, you're committed, and that's what he's here to do, is to bring this locker room together, to fully, bring us together as a team, as a locker room, as brothers, on the gridiron. So with that, it's going to bring, the consistency that we've been lacking. It's going to start with the coach. It's going to start with the coaches and just do a trickle-down effect.
I'm going to say this.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Because I'm going to be long-winded.
I know you're not going to be. You are long-winded.
All right, well, whatever.
But
That's
anyways,
fine.
if you go back throughout last season and you go back a little before that, and when we was talking about what these players need, we've all talked that we need a head coach that can do this. That's what I said. Clyde, you said we need the head coach to do this. Acosta said we need the head coach to do that. So when I was watching that, I started seeing everything that we was talking about in that one coach.
Oh,
that guy that's going to sit there and get everybody fired up, a guy that's going to sit there and coach the game through his gut, a guy that's going to have consistency, a guy that's going to, keep everybody accountable. And when we got Jeff Saturday in, hey, there you go. And Clyde, you said this. There you go, P. You got somebody get these guys fired up.
Yep.
But he didn't really keep them accountable like he said he was going to. Was no consistency whatsoever,
Facts.
and the list goes on and on and on and on. But watching this, it got me thinking back to what each one of us was saying, what we need our head coach to be. And right now, what I'm seeing is total package of what we wanted.
Total package. Weird way to put that. But I would say, you know me, I'm going to always kind of be the stick in the mud, right? I'm the person that has to see the proof in the pudding. And it's not that I'm knocking Shane Steichen, but you know me. I always said I'm not for the rah-rah coach. And it's not because that's a bad thing to be, but it's like I want somebody who actually knows the X's and O's so well that rah-rah is not even needed. Now, again, Shane Steichen wasn't my first pick. I think, I was more so going with Bieniemy and maybe another guy. I kind of liked the guy that was Callahan out in Cincinnati.
Yep.
Because I'm sitting there thinking the one thing that we struggled on is also the biggest thing that I fear. We struggled on offense. But when you bring in an offensive mind, then you have potentially the Frank Reich effect again, where you're not coaching an entire game. So those were things that I was going to worry about. But the difference with Shane Steichen, right, is you can just see the energy, going back to your point, Pat, that he brings. And I think that energy, I can then disconnect it from the rah-rah. Like, this guy loves football, right? And I'm sure most coaches do. But the one thing that he has on his side is that he's young, he's innovative. And then I think also just that he has multiple facets of the game already in a short amount of time because he's coached defense. He's worked with, he was a college coach, or I'm sorry, a college quarterback himself. So he can speak to, I guess, the relative parts of the game today. He's only 37, 38 years old. So this is good for us in that right. But I still need to see the proof in the pudding, because our fan base is starving right now. We're starving for many reasons, right? We're starving because we can't figure the quarterback position out. We're starving because for years now, I'd say 3 to 4 years, we've had a roster full of talent that has not produced. I mean, 2 years ago, we had 7 Pro Bowlers, right? Most in the league, and didn't make the playoffs. Like, stuff like that doesn't even make sense. And so right now, it really doesn't matter who walks through the door. But I honestly think, despite who comes in the door, the fan base is going to be a little bit questionable. So I'm speaking for the fan base right now. It was a great speech. We felt it. The energy was there. But just like somebody said today, with the first pick is about to start, and a lot of people already have doubt. And and it's kind of weird because, traditionally, Chris Ballard does what? He drafts pretty fucking well. But then the team ends up playing like, not so well. And then it's like, what's the point? And so there's just a lot of negative energy, not a lot of optimism. So a lot of pessimists. And tonight play the biggest role of pessimist, and not in a negative way. I want Shane Steichen to do great. I feel his energy, but show me in week 1. My thoughts. Look at Patrick. Patrick is so Colts.
No, you're 100% right.
Omaha myself? Not yet.
No, you're 100% right. Any coach that we bring in and any player that we bring in has to show their worth.
Facts.
They absolutely have to. But I'm the kind of guy that likes to peel layers.
Yep.
So I won't just say, oh, I'm from Kansas, the show me state. You got to show me first. No.
Now you get them.
Now,
what kind of? That was so corny, Pat. But anyway, go for it. Finish your statement.
Is the onion effect because your head's shaped like an onion?
Could be.
Peel the layers back.
But I like to think that I'm a little intelligent, so I can pull some layers back, and and truly see stuff going on. Just like when everybody last year was saying, "Fire Frank, fire Chris." I'm like, why? Do you guys not know what this man has done? Right. Yeah, we've bombed here, we've bombed there. Absolutely. But other than there, he's hit home run after home run after home run. Yep. So peel back those layers. If he can hit home runs here, 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 and here, when he sees his guy at quarterback, he's going to hit that too. You can believe it. So I'll peel back layers on the coach. And I'll be optimistic about him doing what I'm seeing that I think he's going to do.
All right, country.
The
You get last attacks on this one before we move on.
the last thing I just want to say, even though he hyped up that locker room, he was passionate about what he said. This coach that we got is a no bullshitter. We will see that week one. He's going to hold people to a high accountability rate that we've not seen before from our coaches from the last 5-6 years, whatever it's been. So expect him to expect perfection when it comes to this team because the amount of talent we have on this team. He doesn't want bullshit. He doesn't want excuses. He knows his team's built to win, and that's what he's here to do is to win. So I'm expecting a no bullshit mentality. That's just my mentality as in, growing up playing football. That's the way our coaches, coached us. And I see that in him. He comes from that era, close to us. So no bullshit and play consistent football. I'm all for it.
And with that, let's get into the bullshit now. Sammy, bang that. So dig.
You're going to have way too much fun with
Way too much fun. Listen, we are 1 week out from the draft, right? And there's all kind of rumors flying around. First and foremost, we got to hit some big targets. So Mr. Casario down in Houston 2 days ago said, "Hey, we're entertaining offers for anybody who wants to come up to 2." Right now, a couple things to go with that. A, they hired a defensive-minded coach. Okay, so quietly everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna take our quarterback of the future." Blah 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 blah. But I also kept saying, like, this is the defensive-minded coach who had a crazy defense out in San Fran. Who's to say he doesn't want Will Anderson or another star, Jalen Carter or whomever? So now, just for them to come out and say that, maybe it's smoke and mirrors, maybe it's a smoke screen, but maybe not. Then last night, Adam Schefter comes out and says, "Hey, for everyone that's doing pre-draft analysis and think it's going to go quarterback, 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 you're probably wrong." Now, Adam Schefter is an insider. We know who he is. We don't have to sit here and try to insult his intelligence at all. But he's saying that people probably are wrong if they're thinking quarterbacks are just going to fly off the board 1 through 4. Well, 1, 2, 3, then, or 1, 2, skip 3, then 4 to us, which then brought us back into the fold for maybe we get our guy, right? And so since we're getting our guy and we're talking about our guy, lo and behold, we got to talk about the top 4 again. So round 1, fight. Here we go. Clyde's guy is CJ Stroud, right? I've been saying this from day 1. And what we're going to do right now is dance with all of them. So right now we have a question mark on because it's pretty sure Bryce is probably going to be gone. I think that Frank Reich really, really, really knows that if he came up to 1, they better take Bryce. He's probably the surest of them all, to include CJ. But I think that question mark, could be your guy, Hendon Hooker. Probably just wouldn't be at number 4. Would be a trade back, get him later. But we're going to go around the horn and give pros and cons again for all of the quarterbacks. So CJ Stroud's up first. Pat, you're up first. Why is CJ Stroud our guy or not? Go.
He can do it all.
He can do it all. He's
He
a
can
Buckeye,
do
though.
it.
I'm a Michigan man.
I'm a Notre Dame guy, so yeah. But
No,
yeah,
Michigan State guy.
and in all actuality, he can do it all, and I think that's what Coach Steichen is looking for. He's looking for that all-around quarterback that he has unlimited potential in calling his plays.
Oh,
That go back and look at what Steichen has had
true.
and how he's utilized them, and there is a plethora of plays being called just because of this quarterback, or there's this quarterback, like Phillip Rivers. All right, your arm's still good enough. Let's start slinging that ball.
True.
So back then, if you go back, people weren't thinking Phillip Rivers was going to throw deep passes,
But he did.
but he did with Steichen. Jalen Hurts, his rookie year, he got some play time. Wasn't that great. Look what Steichen done with him once he got a hold of him.
True that.
Um, was it it was definitely last year that Philadelphia was the most explosive offense.
Yes.
And I think they were climbing the ladder the year prior to that as well, just because he had that quarterback that can do just about anything.
Okay.
So when I look at CJ Stroud, I think if he's there, that's who they go with because of Steichen. But the same, and you might pass me up on the others, the same goes for these other top quarterbacks
Okay.
because of their mobility. Now, Bryce Young doesn't really he might have the mobility, but he didn't utilize it at Alabama,
Enough. Right.
you
Okay.
know, where all these other quarterbacks we're going to talk about actually utilize their legs.
All right. So country, but he's from Ohio State. He gets, flustered once he's moving outside the pocket. And he's from Ohio State. And they traditionally don't do well when it comes to quarterback. Still, why is CJ Stroud our guy?
I really just like piggybacking off of Pat here. I mean, the potential is just, oh my gosh, man. The potential is so there. I
Right.
mean, he's the ultimate what in this quarterback class. He's the ultimate hybrid to what we need. He can throw the ball. He can stand in the pocket and throw the ball. He's got a hell of an arm. He can run the ball when he has to. I mean, regardless of size, I mean he's almost a resemblance of Andrew Luck.
Oh shit. Wait a minute. Wait a tick.
I'm not saying maybe not
Whoa.
the
Okay.
hype may not be there as much for
Okay.
Andrew, but it's just there's a lot of traits that I see in his highlights that just remind me a lot of him. He's poised, he's serious. He's all about the game when he's in that huddle. I mean, I think he's a good quarterback, potentially going to be a great quarterback for us.
Yes.
But he's just he's well rounded, and he's intelligent, athletic. He's just the ultimate package. I think that's why we get him at pick number 4.
All right. Well, Clyde says this. Clyde says, because I actually can put myself in the shoes of my own thoughts. And what I mean by that is because usually I'm just like, nope, no Ohio State kid, especially the Indianapolis. Because why? We always pick a Ohio State kid, and despite his position, it usually doesn't work out, right? We are very, very, very much on the lost side when it comes to picking Ohio State players. But there's something different, in my opinion, about this kid, right? And I don't want to sound like somebody that knows him personally, but just watching him play, I'm like, a lot of times the team is hard to beat. Sometimes a player is hard to beat. CJ Stroud is hard to beat. like literally, like there's no game that I watch, even when they lose, and it was rare in his career, that it felt like, oh man, like they don't have a chance. Like that dude will play back from 14-0, like the Georgia game was wild, right? Like that Georgia game was crazy. Now Georgia would end up winning, but there was times when I felt like Georgia was about to just run away with it, and then CJ Stroud was like, hold on, wait a minute, I'm still here, right? I can make plays with my legs. I can definitely make plays with my arm. And he showed us all of that. And I think he needed, despite his numbers over the last 2 years, he needed a performance against a team like Georgia to sell that to the world. And he sold me, right? And I think, and we're going to talk about this with each player, but I think that initially going in, he was hands down my guy. But then I can't help but to feel that because of all the things we've heard, he can go 1, he can go 2, he probably wouldn't be there. You find yourself watching the other players. And in that, we'll transition to Anthony Richardson. And I'll start this because I'm not going to lie, I have fell in love with Anthony Richardson's
What?
athleticism. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. All right, yeah.
Carvey's head
Oh,
flipping
yeah,
off his
see,
shoulders
hey.
right now.
Listen,
he said you're rooting for my cousin, man.
listen. Okay, because for the longest, right? At least a month, CJ Stroud, ever since the combine, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young honestly have been off of the board for the Colts, seeing that we were not moving up. This is just all the chatter between fans, between analysts, between news stations or networks or whatever. And so you can't help but to start like really focusing on kind of like when you go to the car dealership, right? Like you want the car with all the options, but your money don't spend like that. So maybe I got to get the mid-level, right? So I started looking at the mid-level heavy. And, for me, the mid-level was definitely Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, further on down the line, Hooker because of the injury. So studying his athleticism and then just imagining him in our offense and thinking about Jalen Hurts and then putting it all together, I was like, holy shit, bro. Like, this is probably the biggest, fastest quarterback that maybe ever stepped into the NFL. Now, there's guys that are taller than him, sure. But to be around 240, 245 and run a 4.4, I don't think that's I would have to do some fat check, but I don't think that's ever happened. And to think that, he doesn't have a lot of tape, which is good and bad, because with not having a lot of tape, you don't know what Shane Steichen can turn him into. But with having just enough tape, he's a threat. So now I'm like, yeah, CJ Stroud is my guy on paper, absolutely. But oh shit, if Anthony Richardson is there, like, yo, God, take him, help me, Acosta. I'm eating all my words from months ago. I look like a crazy man. What do you think?
I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Claude. I mean, the kid is probably outside of CJ Stroud has the most potential, and we know Shane Steichen is the quarterback guru.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's groomed so many great quarterbacks and potentially great quarterbacks, and I can just see him mentoring this kid so well that he's going to be explosive. And I mean, like you said, his size alone, bro, size alone is just stupid.
Yeah, RAS score off
And I
the
mean,
charts, man.
But and then that video of him with his arm, just throwing it. What was it, like 80 or 90 yards or something stupid?
I don't think it was that long, but it was far.
Or it was far.
You threw it.
What I mean?
The whole football field. I don't know about that, but it was far.
Yeah, it was definitely far. But yeah, I mean, it just the talent potential that is there. If Shane Steichen can unleash that in him, there's no stopping this kid. And Shane Steichen is the coach to do it. So if we get AR-15, I see us being a playoff contention team within next year.
Patrick, but he only has 13 games. Patrick, he has the highest bust rate with 80% of people thinking he's going to be a bust, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. But Jamarcus Russell and no. Why is Anthony Richardson our guy?
For all the same reasons that I talked about, CJ was our guy.
Yeah.
Every reason is the same. But the one thing Anthony has over CJ is just pure, raw athleticism, talent running through every pore of that guy's body.
Easy with the description, man. You be getting a little too you're getting a little too depictive. But anyway, I see what you're saying.
I would say this guy's over trying to write a documentary about this kid's life and shit.
Okay, but anyway.
Just trying to be accurate.
Okay, yes. There's a lot of athletic talent inside this man. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So the upside with this kid is tremendous.
Hard to pass up on.
Yeah, it is hard to pass up. Is he going to be a bust? I don't know. Will CJ be a bust? I don't know. That's the only time will tell that we can not peel layers back on. We can't peel a layer back on those. That is only time. But potentially, man, the kid's got it all.
Okay. But
there's always a but with you.
No, because this is the one. But Will Levis seems to be connected to the Colts when you ask anybody and everyone. And I see Acosta, you definitely going first because you cannot get down with that. So why does everyone feel that Will Levis is the guy? Because lo and behold, I'm telling you, more than you hear Anthony Richardson, more than you hear CJ Stroud, you hear number 7 from the University of Kentucky being tied to us at number 4. And Acosta, why is that not what you want to see?
I mean, bro, come on. I mean, it's just, I don't know what these 8 scouts and, even what Peyton, the great Peyton, the GOAT seen in him, I'm just from what I've seen at the combine, I know they wasn't his normal receivers and stuff. I get all that. The chemistry wasn't there and blah, 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 blah. But just AR-15 outdid him in every category. He completed more passes. His arm strength's better. He was more accurate with the deep ball. Just that's just from what I'm seeing. I live down here, close to Louisville, about half an hour from Louisville. So I seen him play at U of L against, the Cardinals. And even then, obviously U of L wasn't all that great at the time that I went and seen him play. I think it was like his sophomore year or something. And even he was still young. But, it was against a really bad Cardinal team. So, of course, he's going to shine pretty well. And, he had a lot of good games against the SEC teams, which, is a powerhouse in college. So, but what they're seeing and what I'm seeing, I'm not convinced. I mean, I'm not a professional by any means. I played my years of football. I went on the professional or collegiate level. Could have been there, but wasn't. But what I'm seeing, I wasn't impressed with. I think AR-15 has way more potential. Is he a top 5 quarterback? Not my opinion. Top 10, definitely. But I honestly just don't think he's ready for the NFL.
Patrick, but Will Levis shows the most poise. He makes bad decisions, but he's fearless. He's a big guy, strong, can run, can throw. People are comparing him maybe to a raw Patrick Mahomes. All kind of craziness.
Well, I'm hearing
Why is he the guy or not?
I'm hearing more comparisons to Josh Allen just because
I heard that one too.
The size. On Levis, I'm not saying he is the guy, but I'm also not saying he isn't the guy. Going back to what Country said, I haven't watched a whole lot of tape on Will Levis. Now, we've seen him at the combine, and if you ask me, maybe it was just nerves. I don't know, but he wasn't as accurate as I thought he should have been.
Put a few in the dirt.
Yeah, when you're just having a pitch catch sit.
Sorry, it's okay. Work it out. Work it out.
Pitch and catch.
Sound it out there, big boy.
Session. Good God, it took me 8 minutes to get that daggone word out. I deserve that one.
Holy crap!
But when you have just that pitch and catch, and you're making wild throws, you're making your receivers, turn the exact opposite way of when they're supposed to be going, and that kind of scares me. Now, is it fixable? Yeah, that's absolutely. Every one of these young kids coming out is going to have weaknesses to their game, and that's part of the scouting report, is their weaknesses. Can Coach Shane and his staff go in there and fix it? Probably. But is it going to be easier to fix somebody else's weaknesses than it is his? I don't know, because I'm not a fly in the war room, so I don't know what they're thinking. But if they go with him, then I'll support him.
Absolutely.
45 seconds on Will Levis for me. Unfortunately, in this current draft, to even include the next guy we're going to talk about, Hendon Hooker, before we get out of here, he doesn't have the complete wow factor that the other ones do. I think that in a lesser of a comparable draft, like if there was one of them drafts where there's only like 2 quarterbacks, right? And he's one of them, I think everybody's like Will Levis, despite his issues. But watching Anthony Richardson go nuts, knowing CJ Stroud who he is, understanding Bryce Young's probably going to be the first one. And, oh, by the way, if Hendon Hooker wouldn't have got injured, what if, right? That's what I'm saying. Will Levis kind of where he is for me. Yep. Which then rolls us into our last guy as we get ready to close out. Hendon Hooker, I'll start with him. I remember being very blown away by watching him play against Alabama. Him and Jalen Wyatt had a day to remember. And I remember saying, what about this kid? And what I didn't know at that time, and so this is on me, the COVID era was nuts, meaning kids got to get that extra year. And this dude was like 42 years old. Him and Stetson Benson are like 42 years old. I don't know. No, but be it serious. Like he's like 26 years old. And that's what scares me more than anything is because, yes, we want a young quarterback, but let's just take him to his second contract. He's already 30. versus a second contract for Anthony Richardson, who's 25. Bryce Young, who will be 25. Will Levis might be 26. I don't know. 30 years old on your second contract, that's Chris Winkie. So that scares me. Plus, out of all of the guys, he played in the least pro system. Like the system that Josh Heupel runs out there in Tennessee is like, I'm going to spread my receivers as far as you can go, making the defense spread out as far as possible. And then we just going to run slants, crosses, ins, outs. Dudes are going to run out the backfield. We're going to make linemen eligible, all kind of shit. It's like arcade. It's like playing NFL blitz. That's not going to happen in NFL. No. But he could run, and so I'm going to give him that. But then he's coming off of a knee injury. So then that kind of limits that. So to me right now, he is the last of the last, even behind Will Levis when you're talking about number 4. But if we did something crazy and traded back, then it's a different conversation. But we just going to stick with where we are. Currently, we're number 4. So for me, Hendon Hooker, the question mark, can't draft him there. Just my thoughts. But let's make this quick. Let's go around. Pat, give me your Hendon Hooker analysis because you love him. You met his sister, you met his mom, and you fall in love with people's family, and then you forget about everything.
That's what it's all about. Family is everything. But even if I wouldn't had met them, Hendon was my guy from that game, from that Alabama game.
Okay.
I was like, this kid, he's got every tool you could imagine. He's good. He's poised in the pocket. He can run. Understood. He's hitting tight windows. Yeah, I absolutely love his game. If we trade back and that's who we pick up, I'm not mad about that one either.
Boy, the Colts fans are gonna go bananas.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm gonna be one of them. I've hit the table before. Why are you trading back? I've been sitting here all night.
If we hear that, good night. If we hear the Colts have the picks in, the Colts make a trade with whomever, man, I'm gonna be in Kansas City, and they're probably gonna have to like drag me off, drag me out of the Union Station.
You're getting security.
Yeah, probably. All right, Acosta, you got the last words.
We got bail money for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
He'd be up there choking Roger Goodell. Don't accept it. Don't accept it.
Absolutely not. Costa, why is he your guy, or why isn't he?
I mean, I'm in between with him because, like, I'm in between what you guys have said. His play schemes. It's definitely collegiate level, not NFL ready level. So I think his knowledge is going to definitely lack in that category. But his raw talent is great. But just that knee injury is what scares me the most.
Facts, big facts.
Because it just shouts RG3 vibes to me.
Big time.
Because I mean, and honestly, Lamar Jackson vibes really. As far as it's just depending on his legs and too much, and so. But I didn't get to see the game against Alabama, but when I heard Pat talking about it in our own little personal group chat, I went back and I watched the highlights. I'm like, man, yeah, this kid's got such raw talent.
Facts.
But I'm going to agree with you though, Clyde. At number 4, if we stay there, we don't pick him up.
Yeah, and he's 40 years old. No knock on him, but I'm 40 years old. Pick me up. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
You want to be Bob Sanders.
And with that,
they're going to have to pick you up and get you on the bus.
Oh, my God.
Episode 1 of the Anvil Show and the Sick Podcast is a wrap. Sammy, take us out of here.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Anvil Show on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.